Welcome everyone. I am Alok Jha. I am a certified information security auditor, and I am helping many organizations to implement cybersecurity in their organization, assess their cybersecurity program. In this webinar, we are going to discuss about data lifecycle and how to implement the best security possible into the organization, and what are the methods and methodology should be there. Before we start deep diving into this session, I quickly go through the housekeeping item. And as I have mentioned that you can ask any question and at any point of time. Uh, I want to break the traditional way of webinar and the discussions. You can stop me anytime. Raise your hand. I will try to answer your question instantly. So this session should be more and more interactive because we are very less people on in this webinar at the moment. So I think I can take all the questions instantly. So be interactive. Ask questions. Feel free to unmute your mic and or drop the questions on the chat box. After this, at the end of this quiz, we will have a quick this webinar. We will have a quick quiz, and that is just to check that your cybersecurity awareness part. And of course, you will get a certificate, U skill certificate about your awareness skills. And yeah, and of course, share your learning experience, what you are learning here, and get back to us in case of any query, anytime, anywhere. So in this webinar, we will be covering what actually the data security is, why people are, or why any organization, why we should consider or we should secure data, and what actually the data security is, how the data life cycle works, what is the data life cycle, what is the difference between cloud-based data and on-prem data? What is the difference between both? How whether there is any big difference between cloud data or the on-prem data? Data-centric security strategy. What is the best way to implement security? Whether it is the data-centric, network-centric, or asset-centric, something like that. So we will be covering all these points, and of course, at the end, we will be learning that how to develop a security team. We have seen that in many organizations, and this is my personal experience when I am giving support or consultancy to different organizations. I find that uh, they don't have the good team who can, develop or implement cybersecurity into their program. So let's start. In traditional terms and in layman terms, you can say that here the definition is mentioned. I don't know why it is. Can I remove it? How it can go? Yeah, now it is okay. So, what is data security? We all know that in general terms that data security to protect the data from any unauthorized access. We say that that is the data security. We protect our data from hackers by keeping that data hidden from the hackers. That is the general concept. But the actual data security is you know to understand that what actually in data we want to secure. So data security is a combination of confidentiality. Confidentiality means protecting sensitive information from unauthorized disclosure. So no unauthorized person should see the data, or he should no unauthorized person can share such kind of data or information to somebody else. Similarly, the integrity is the safeguarding the data from unauthorized changes, or or the data should remain intact. There should no change happen between the whole life cycle of that data. So intact the integrity of the data from the unauthorized user. So no unauthorized user can make any changes into the data itself, or the authorized person don't make the change unauthorized changes onto the data itself. So it is the integrity, saving the integrity from both unauthorized user or the authorized user who has access to the data, that he can see the data, but he should not be allowed to make any unauthorized changes into the data. And the last is, of course, the availability. Data should be available. as and when somebody has that requirement, like I'm booking it, making a ticket booking, going to book a flight ticket, and I'm trying to log in. If my login doesn't work, it means that the data is not available as per my requirement. If I'm able to log in, but I'm trying to find that what is my past booking, it means my data is not available. So at that point of time, so it means the data is uh, not secure due to that. Why it is not available? Maybe due to the hacking, maybe due to some disruption had happened. So while doing understanding the data security, we should consider these three most important part of data, that is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Uh, I have seen in many organizations, I have spoken with security auditor who doesn't have that much of in-depth knowledge, or maybe they have just came into cybersecurity, or maybe they are maintaining very sensitive data, but they don't know except that they have to protect the data. But what they have to protect the data? Is it uh, really if the data is kept somewhere, is it really we have to secure the confidentiality of the data, integrity of the data, or the availability of the data, how that data can be categorized, that what actually we have to protect. Those kind of understanding is lacking in most of the organizations, auditors or security professionals or network administrators and all. Uh, Knowing your data there, where it is, how the data is traversing in all the phases, how who can access the data, and what kind of data is, and where it is hosted. That is another part of the data security. So whenever you are implementing data security, you should know that where the data is. The next is the data protection. Data protection is that you protect your data from any disruption, any loss, maybe manual erasure or deletion, or some kind of hacking attempt have happened due to ransomware attack. Your data is not available, so you have to protect your data from such unauthorized, access. Somebody has unauthorized access your system and install some kind of ransomware, and now you are not able to access. So again, that there the data security comes into picture, and you have to implement proper data security. And so these are the different parts of data security that, of course, you have to secure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data. Then you know that where the data is. The third is how to protect your data from any kind of disruption. And the next one is what kind of data you are collecting as data privacy. There are many compliance are there, especially the GDPR. They have certain norms and certain categories that whenever you are collecting somebody's data, you have to fulfill six principles, I guess, that you must follow before collecting any information from the any user. Like uh, it used to be something like that when such privacy laws were not in place stringently. Then any organization used to collect any information from any type of information they used to collect. But now the law says, the compliance says that why you are collecting the data, what is the purpose of data, how long you will collect the data, how long you will retain that data. So all these are the part of data security. So whenever you are implementing data security, you should ask these questions. You should ask these questions to the owner of the data. You should check with the management or the person who is involved in all implementing data security. So so whenever if you have all these answers, you will very easily able to understand the goals and objective of data security, that what actually you have to protect, from where you have to protect, from whom you have to protect. So all these questions will come in front of you, and you can answer according to the responses you will be getting from the different sources. So the- I- So we have we have understood that what is data security. If you have any guys, you have any questions, feel free to ask, uh, because then I will move on to next slide. Is that okay? No, silence is always accepted. Okay, so now we all create data. Every day we either we write something on to notebook, either we write something on word processor, we fill some form somewhere onto the website. We try to access some shared drive folder or create something somewhere onto the LAN drive. So it means we are creating the data. It doesn't creating the data, and what happens after that creation of the data. So any data anywhere, whether it is spoken, whether it is written onto the notebook, whether it is written over the software medium. There are 6 phases of the data. Say in their life cycle, data passes through the 6 phases of the all over his life. So one is the create the data, where the data is being created, whether data is created structured, unstructured, the data is structured or unstructured or the semi-structured. So at the moment, when the data is being created, as from the security point of view, we need to understand that what kind of protection. If the moment in next slide, we will have a very good understanding that who should own and how should protect how to implement certain level of security in every phases. So in next slide, I will cover. So in this slide, I will just discuss about the phases of the data. So we create the data, and the moment we create, it is stored somewhere. Maybe it is stored on mobile, maybe it is stored on cloud, maybe it is stored on the server, on-prem servers, or anywhere. As you can see that at the bottom of this slide, these are the channels of data: worksheet, laptop, mobile, some database, cloud, some another database somewhere, or the email. So it is being stored somewhere. Then after creating the data, any data is being created, it must have some kind of use. So it is used by a number of people. It depends on the creator of the data, what actually he wants. He wants to do some business with some another team, or that data requires to fulfill some another requirement from another team, from another application, or certain kind of thing. So the third phase is being used, how you use the data. The next phase, that is called share. Once the data is being used, now it comes into the share phase, where we share the data. As I have said, that we may share the data on email, we may share the data on SharePoint Drive, or maybe we don't share it anywhere, but we just keep it on our own drive, or maybe on some of the drives. Yeah, and it is ready to share. It is not necessary that we definitely share some data, but it is ready to share once it is processed, once it is used, or once the outcome has been, the objective of the data has been fulfilled. So it will produce some kind of result. Let's say if we are working on some financial information, so it is start from $1, and goes to thousands of dollars, and it may come into a spreadsheet, it may come into a database sheet, or it may come into somewhere onto the cloud. So now it is stored somewhere. So the owner of that data, the guy who is working over the data, he can share it, or he can just keep it somewhere, and wait for the right moment to whom he can share, or maybe he don't share. After these first four phases happens, every data has its life. It is uh, not all data doesn't have, the immortality. Every data has certain age, and after that, data should go into the backup drive, or it should be archived, or maybe it should be, there is no use of data. The new data is overlapping with it, and so those data should be kept into the archive folder. Archive folder means it can be backed up somewhere, it can be stored somewhere, and it may be used in future due to some kind of audit, maybe due to some kind of financial audit, maybe due to some kind of security check, maybe due to something which is required to fulfill further action. So the fifth phase of data is every data should be archived after a certain time of period. And now it is any auditor or any security person should know that it is the archiving is not individual's choice. It depends that it all depends on data owner, that what actually he wants to do with that data, whether he just want to directly delete it or he wants to archive it somewhere. And of course, it is derived from the compliance requirement also. If you have credit card information, then that data should be kept. All the data which is not in used or any data which is being backed up should be backed up for 1 year or 2 year or something like that. So whenever you are implementing or understanding the life cycle and you are in the archival phase, you check with the team that whether you have to fulfill any compliance requirement or it is just your own work, and according to that answer you implement the archival policies and procedures, and of course the security. Then the next phase is destruction. The archival is finished. Now the lifetime of that data is finished, and and it is approaching to be finished or destroyed, or destruction should be there. So now, as you can see that the archival happens on different platforms, maybe onto the backup tape drive, maybe kept on some certain media, maybe archival happens on cloud, VMware or somewhere. So now the destruction has to be reviewed, that what actually the data was, whether it is any financial data, whether it was any medical record. If it has to comply with any kind of requirement, compliance requirement, or any law, then the destruction should happen according to that. Just for an example, if there is a PII data or maybe the credit card data kept onto any tape drive, of course, any no, nobody is authorized to keep any 16-digit credit card number. Let's say somehow it is there, or maybe some kind of um, mass data is there on any tape drive, or maybe any hard drive. So in general policy, general process, that we degauss it. Either we do a deep level of formatting, so nobody can see that data with open eyes. But there are so many tools which can retrieve the data even after multiple formatting happens. So we have to make sure that while doing the destruction, are we following any kind of compliance requirement? If it is compliance requirements, then how the destruction should happen? Whether it is just a simple erasure of the data will work, or we have to degauss it, or we have to physically break the hard drive mm, or the data or the medium where the data is kept. Of course, if you are aware about the crypto threading. Uh, Crypto threading is the new concept which is being heavily used on cloud due to the, as you know, that the one server on cloud may have different tenants, so everybody can see that data. So how we destroy the data on cloud? We do the crypto threading. Once we encrypt the data with very strong keys and destroy the key, so nobody can decrypt that data. And of course, we need to understand that any encryption keys can be broken depending on the processing power and depending on the key length. So this is all about the data life cycle. If every data goes through these 6 phases, and on all these 6 phases, we have to implement security as it is required. So one of my friend has very nicely depicted something related to data security, and he has correlated data security with Hindu mythology, Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. You can see that uh, he has created, like the any generator will be considered as Lord Brahma, The operator would be as like Vishnu is considered to be the operator of universe, operator of humankind. So he has depicted any operator as a Vishnu, and of course the Shiva is the symbol of destruction. So who is doing some kind of the last phase of data life cycle, so should be treated as a Shiva. So the question is, there are many methods of securing your organization data. The overall objective of any organization is to secure the data, and as we have seen that the data travels through different channels. So traditional way of security was to implement security on the network level, on the firewall or router, uh, not allow anybody to come inside your network by deny or allow only those known IP addresses. But now, due to the dynamic nature of this whole internet and the way the business work these days, we have to present our many applications in front of the whole world. So it is not possible to implement security onto the network level only by denying everyone and allowing only known people or known users. It is not possible. So what we have to do, we have to present our application, like we have to present the booking system, because those kind of activities are happening. The business is happening through websites and web application, mobile apps. So implementing security, so we have to change everywhere where the data is following, and we have to implement different security everywhere. So the best security strategy, as per many researchers or the cybersecurity expert, that we should implement, we should have data-centric security strategy. If we implement data-centric security strategy, that is the best security strategy till now, and it will achieve not only the goal of protecting the data, it will also save organizations dollars of dollars, and of course it saves organization to face some kind of embarrassment from the data disclosure by unauthorized user or maybe the hacker and all. So in this picture, I would quickly go through it, like when somebody is generating the data, uh, as a security professional, we should know we are not the data owner in most of the cases. As a security professional, we know that there is the data. We can help somebody to understand what kind of security we should implement onto the data, but we never own data. In some cases, of course, if we have some audit reports, if we have worked on implementing some kind of security, then those kind of data, of course, the cybersecurity guys have are the owner of the data. But in general, if you see in any organization, if there is the HR data, if there is the admin data, if there is some kind of financial data, so who is the creator of the data is considered as the owner of the data, and it is the whole and sole responsibility of the owner, who should guide everybody that how to implement data security. First of all, by understanding, uh, like I have created one basic form. I am working in an organization. I have created one form. That organization has said me that can you please create one form where we can allow anybody to write his name, last name, user ID, password, and then their social security number, etc. So that guy has asked me to create that form. I had created. So till that form is with me, as a creator, as a developer, so I will remain the owner of that particular data. But the moment I have handed over everything to the person requester, that requester will become the owner of the data, that particular form. And now once the every data has started filling to the form, people started filling the form, and that has started going into the database. So the ownership will start changing, right? But the the collection of the data, which is being done by the some kind of to fulfill some certain job, certain activity, that team or that person will remain responsible for that data, and he will remain the owner of the data. So who is the data owner who has to understand that where the data is and what is the importance of that data? What is the
Only
criticality of the data in terms of business operations, in terms of confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data? What will happen if the current confidentiality is breached due to some hack happens, whether it will disrupt any business, whether it will make any bad publicity in media or something like that. So owners should sorry.
look, sorry, should we say that the owner, in terms of
Mhm.
the identifying the owner, is that because the data can be created by anyone, right? Means
Correct.
can be that doesn't mean that he's the owner of the data, right? So
No.
the team which will be impacted straight
Correct.
away directly
Correct.
are normally the owner of the data. Am I right to say?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You are right. So somebody comes and created the data. But just like we are just I can give you one example. So let's say one of the organization, UK organization is collecting its customers' data and keeping that data onto the cloud. Now the cloud is owning that data, but ultimate responsibility will still remain with that organization who is collecting the data,
Mm,
right?
mm, yeah.
So whoever is collecting the data, that will remain the owner of the data throughout its life cycle. It will be, of course, if we are putting that data onto the cloud, it would be a shared responsibility, but legally, the ultimate responsibility will remain on to the person who is collecting the data. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So any honor while so it is as we have said that we should implement data-centric security. So how we will implement the data-centric security? First of all, we need to understand that what kind of data we are collecting, whether it is financial data, whether it is PCI data, whether it is PII data, personal identifiable information data. You may know about these, the difference between all these data. So maybe sometime in later webinar, we will discuss on all the difference between all such data. So once we collect the data, it is the owner's responsibility to classify it. Classify means like who all can who all can see that data, who all can use that data, what is the criticality level of the data, if the breach happens, what will be the impact. So whether it is critical, whether it is internal, whether it is public, or those kind of classification, as you have seen that in some top secret documents from government, they have especially mentioned it is either written or maybe the cover would be or of that data would be something like that, red or something. So it depicts, it represents that, okay, this data is very top secret, classified. No one, not everyone should be allowed to see it. Once that has been defined, it is the operator who has to implement those security. If some data is top secret, then again here comes that what kind of access should be there, what kind of authorization should be there. We will discuss what all the technology should be there to implement data security. So honor will guide operator that we have these kind of data. Now you have to implement certain kind of security to protect it from unauthorized disclosure, unauthorized destruction, unauthorized changes, or of course you have to protect the availability. When the whole uh, mm, when the whole process finishes, now the data comes into the destruction phase. There we have to guide the guy who is maintaining it, like your backup team, maybe your third party team where the data maybe we are taking backup. So every organization have. I am just giving you a very practical example, so you can correlate yourself. Maybe you will be coming across on day-to-day basis, like your backup guys send you an email and says that now your drive is fulfilling, or maybe we are into the next phase of data backup. Can you please guide me which all data should be backed up from your laptop or maybe from your server? So we instruct him and that data has been backed up. So you know that what happens with the data? So those data goes onto the NAS device or SANS device, and then from there, uh, those data is being transferred to hardware tape drive. And once the tape drive is, the data has been moved on to the tape drive, it is not possible for any organization to keep those tape drive at the same location. So that those drives should be moved on to some another place where the risk level of destruction should be different. So that usually all the tape drives are either goes to some different location of the same organization, or they may have hired some third party who are specialized in uh, keeping those drive safe. So once, so who is the who is responsible for making sure that once the data is backed up and at the certain time after a certain period, it is, it should be destroyed properly. So any unauthorized person should not by any chance can look into or see those data. So this is the whole phase of, and of course, as I have discussed, so in all the phases, when the moment data is being generated, at that time, owner should define that who all should be see this data, what kind of access control should be there, whether it is who can just read the data, who can just read and write the data, whether data needs any kind of encryption or not, whether data needs to while, and I have told you that in all phases, it is the data owner who will guide the rest of the guys that how you have to implement security in all those 6 phases. And once those security parameters are defined, security should be implemented accordingly. As you have seen at the bottom of where it is mentioned that apply control as per data grade. So grading should be there, classification should be there. You can't implement the same kind of security for all data. If data are supposed to be publicly available, we don't need to protect protect that data and implement encryption technology. So first of all, 75% of data are not that the classic the criticality level of that 75% of data is not that much. So in whole organization, mostly 75 the data should be just, you have to go check and see that the basic hygiene level is there for security, data security or not. Then the 25% may be most of the organization, 25% of data which is being generated into that organization should have high level of controls. And you know what is the controls? Any encryption. Control means you are implementing some technology, you are maintaining some processes, you are implementing some, you are establishing some kind of, safeguard standard or time or guard security guards over there to protect your data. So controls are people, process, and technology which prevent your data from any unauthorized access, any unauthorized modification. And then that the last 5% of data, of course, those are the most critical data where you apply very high level of security over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on control, what we can say that even smallest control, like when someone enters into a premise, they write their name, they write their telephone number, they write whom they have come to meet, even that is a kind of control. So accessing to the building, and how will you access? That's also a control. That even that there is no technology being used, there is a register being used, the pen and paper is being used. Still, that is a control to
Yeah,
access
of
the
course.
building too. So see, when we talk about the data security, we don't talk about only, I think in my opinion, we don't talk about only data particularly. How
No.
someone can achieve to access the data is through the
Sure.
building also, through a different people channel also, So all those are part of the data security, in my opinion. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So basically, it is not data security is, of course, we implement data security as you have seen in my screen that we implement different kind of technology to secure our data like authentication and authorization. So these are considered as a physical security.
Hmm.
So people, process, and technology, whatever you are talking about, that comes under the physical security. So in protecting our data, we have to implement certain technology. Maybe it is human related, maybe even process related, maybe even it is technology related, right? So these are the ways through which we protect our data. And in those technologies, these are the most important technology. Whenever you guys have some time, you study about it, you try to understand a bit more about what actually these are things. Authentication and authorization is one of the most important, and it is the first line of defense where we have to implement it. And authentication means you are authenticated, something like that. If I try to access some shared folder onto the LAN drive of an organization, we do slash slash and an IP address, or maybe the path of that drive. It says it goes for, first of all, it goes for authentication. It maybe it sometime it prompts for user ID and password. So when we put the user ID and password, it means that it is authenticating to see that whether I am authenticated to see that data or not, or maybe I am authenticated to reach on to that. The authentication method, it identifies my identity. So my user ID is my identity, and password is, of course, to see that I am matching with that identity or not. Once the authentication is happen, uh, the next level of thing happen is related to authorizations. That if I reach onto
So
certain path,
can I say, sorry,
yeah,
again?
yeah,
So authenticate, because the people are always confused with the authentication authorization. So I just want to clear that. Suppose you have an ID card to enter, and that's a real life example I'm trying to say that. Suppose you have an ID card of your company that you swap on the door, so that is, if it denies or if it allows you to enter, that's your authentication process. That means you entered into the building, but then you try to access the door number 5, it doesn't allow, and because that has got certain the what do you call it, the sea level discussions are happening in that meeting room is on, so you can't access that one. But door number 4 works for you because that's you have been designated to sit inside and use the resources there. So when you went and started using the resources, yeah, that's your authorization. So what you can do once you have been identified, what you can do is your authorization part. What if the system identified you that as a valid user or not? That's something which is called authentication part. That's what I have understood.
no, absolutely. You are very right in saying that. And you have given a very good example that, let's say that every organization has been is being, categorized in different zone. So one zone is said that, okay, anybody can goes inside that zone. So you just show your card and you are allowed.
Yeah,
Another zone
canteen,
is, yeah,
canteen, canteen. Example.
yeah, just
Everybody is
like
allowed to
canteen.
go into the canteen. Yes.
So everybody is authorized or supposed to go to the canteen. So they have everybody has authenticated to go over there. But again,
But
the
but
issue, yeah,
but only those who have been authenticated, only those can enter in the canteen.
correct.
Not every public can enter. So if my friend tries to come in who doesn't work in that company, will not be allowed to enter the office canteen, because although for that office, whosoever has been going in, whosoever have been authenticated, like employees of that company, will be able to use that. So that's authentication done, and then only authorization happens.
Yeah, authorization means that if you reach onto the data center near to the data center and you show your card, it will not authorize you because you are not authorized to see or go inside the data center itself where all the servers are kept. So these are this is one the first defense line of defense in data security. So wherever you are implementing data security, ask that team that what are you doing for authentication and authorization, and what kind of authentication and authorization you are implementing, whether it is password based. If it is the password based, can you please tell me that what is the length of the password you are asking or enforcing to deploy over there? What is the complexity of the password? And another very good, and it is one of the most important thing, which is protecting and being implemented throughout the world. That is a multi-factor authentication. So wherever the authentication and authorization is happening, multi-factor authentication should be there. Means that you have to two line of two types of authentication you are implementing. One is what you have, and what you are. So maybe what you have two things like a user ID and password, and then another thing is PIN and PIN or maybe RSA token or something like that. So there may be the two things what you have, but not coming from the same source. User ID and password, it is being created on Active Directory or somewhere, and the PIN which is coming through the some of the third party. And another thing is another authentication method is the certificate-based authentication, that how the client and server and the user and the server is being authenticated with the SSL certificate. Then the biometrics authentication, like what you are. Multi-factor authentication also includes biometric authentications, like just for example, you are logging onto your phone and you put your thumb and it allows you to log in even the bank accounts where you have OTP. That is one way of authentication, and including whether your retina or whether your thumb card, and then it is that system allows you to log in. Similarly, it's a token-based authentication. So these are the different kind of authentication and authorization method and medium or technologies through which you can implement according to the data or criticality, according to the category of the data what is being dealt with. It is not necessary that publicly available data doesn't require that kind of severe or authentication and authorization, because it meant to be public. So we don't need any access control over there. Similarly, what kind of encryption we are implementing? Do we really need to encrypt all the data? Usually, any data which contains any sensitive information, contains any personal information, any user ID, password related information should be definitely encrypted, and end-to-end encryption should be there. If I take an example on about one of the website or some of the website, like maybe that website is doing some kind of business and collecting credit card or user or debit card data, but initial couple of pages of that site is not on HTTPS. Those are just plain text. But the moment that site reaches onto the payment page, it was forced to go over the HTTPS. So in that case, that site may be secure because the initial 4 pages doesn't contain any sensitive information, and and they need the fast processing page should be load quickly on those things. So this is why you can see that some of the pages of a site are not on HTTPS, but some of the sites are HTTPS. Again, which pages should be on HTTPS, which page should be not on HTTPS, that is owner's responsibility to decide. And according to that decision, we suggest that team to implement certain type of encryption, TLS encryption. What are the latest version of TLS? We should be encrypting symmetric encryption, asymmetric encryption, or whether hashing will work. It is not necessary to encrypt all the data. Maybe hashing or tokenization can help. So tokenization technology is something like that. It creates a value of any sensitive data, and and once that tokenized data, there is a third hardware tool is there for the tokenization, and that value matches, and then you kind of decrypt and tokenize that data. So these are the various technology in which encryption, of course, it is the most important technology which should be implemented throughout the whole data life cycle. As Ajay has said that we also implement certain physical access control. If we have implemented certain technical security controls, but we don't apply the physical security control, it may also impact the availability of their data if some unauthorized user goes and break or maybe steal the whole hardware system. So the data will not available. So according to that, we should definitely look into the physical control. And one of the most important thing in next slide, I will show you that why the user awareness is required for data centric security. And user awareness is one of the most important thing. I have seen that even the top level of people are not much aware about the cyber security, or maybe inadvertently, or maybe by mistake they disclose very sensitive information via email, or maybe on social media, or maybe reveal sensitive information in cafeteria or airport. So whenever we implement data-centric security, these are the technologies are the most important thing which can help you in whole process in encrypting the data.
Just
Uh,
want to add,
yeah.
I want to add little over there into the last email, sorry, last page to go. The encryption. So the encryption, symmetric, asymmetric. I don't know how much people are aware. I'm sure that quite a lot of whatever the audience is quite nice audience over here. But
Mm.
just to let you that symmetric and asymmetric, that is just a matter of whether you are using, if it is symmetric, it will be using just one key for encryption and decryption. Asymmetric means it is using two keys, that is private and public key, for the encryption and decryption. And you can read about it. It's a quite a good, nice topic. Hashing
Yeah.
is nothing but encoding something. So if I say I go to London, right? So that sentence will be coded, and that's nothing but a hashing. It will have
A
a unique
value,
code.
yeah, a value will be given to that particular line that I'm
Correct.
going to London. So a hash value will be given, and when the hash value will be re-engineered, it will bring the actual data.
Yeah. So hashing is quite. It's not a
Common.
very strong. It's not a very strong
Yeah.
mechanism, right?
Yeah.
Tokenization is again when you say that I have in the as Active Directory cases, normal people use their tokenization that you say my security authentication all packed together, and for that I will provide a token, and that token has got all the information that can be given to any other handing over process. They recognize the token, yet this token is valid or not. Based on that, they allow, and the token can contain timeline also, that how long the session is going to stay in the IT specific session, like if
Time
this is for
stamping.
1 hour, half an hour, something like that. Yeah.
So time
Okay.
stamping is there. Yeah.
Time stamping. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so of course we have talked about data security, and we know that how data security should be implemented. But have you ever bothered about that? Why the data security matters that much? Do we really need to implement that much of data security, or maybe do we really need to think about security? And whatever we say, whatever the news we find onto internet, maybe on BBC channel or somewhere, any news agencies are highlighting that such breach has happened, and that much of losses has happened. But data breaches keep happening all the time. Do you know why? Because the top management of that organization either not aware about that they must need certain kind of data security, or they don't bother that whether they go for the data security and or not, until unless they are hit hard by such kind of incident. So you can see data security definitely matters, because it is impacting all the impacted organization, not only with their reputation but the monetary also. So you can see that around the whole process when the breach happens, or for the protection of say, cybersecurity breach, you can see that in detection and escalation 28% of amount is being spent all over the world. uh, Once the breach happens, the organization has to notify, or maybe potential breach, if somebody sees that they had to notify some of the internal team or the external parties, that contains 62% of monetary investment over there. And then comes the post response, and how to take care of that incident, who will be responsible, how to back up the data, how to bring the business onto back to the normal. And then last 39.4% actual loss happens due to certain incidents. So you can see that how huge number of monetary loss happens throughout the organization all over the world once any breach happens, any data is leaked from any channels or through any medium. uh, so of course you have to, whenever you are presenting your cause that to any organization or maybe your manager or any project, that why you are so much concerned about data security. Because I come across with many people, many team, and they say that why you are bothering about data security, because I am implementing a strong software, I am developing a secure software, but there are the penetration testers available, or maybe the researchers are available. They are finding lots of security hole into so-called such secure data. So of course we have to tell them that, boss, you can see that why we are so much concerned. If this happens to your project, if this happens to your application, you will not only lose the money, it will also be liable for some kind of legal involvement as well. So so
So
the
I have a very good example
yeah.
just now. So I have a limited company, right? And my accountancy is SJD accountancy. SJD, they have been recently in the last week of the December, they were hacked, and
Okay.
the firm has been since then unoperational completely. It
Oh,
has
yeah.
got more than 40,000 clients. So this is the UK's biggest accountancy firm that I'm talking about, more than 40,000 clients. And each client is worth of many millions. So think about, I was trying to submit my corporation tax of my own company. And I've been hanging around for the last more than 1.5 month, 1 month or week, something like that. Yes, that I keep going to them and they have not been able to up their system yet. That's the kind of loss that we are talking about. 40,000, more than 40,000 customers have been impacted. Accountancy is completely closed, no access to any system. They have informed the HMRC also that they have been, so they are expecting the delays in terms of submission returns. The HMRC came back to me saying that, okay, we can wait for 1 month, but 1 month has already gone and another
Yeah.
month is still in progress. And those 40,000 customers have been supported by many hundreds of employees. Yes.
Yeah.
Now you think about the calculate the loss to the firm. It has been completely businessless. No businesses, salary is going on. The clients are suing
Mhm.
them. So it's a huge loss to the company. It can even get closed. That's
Yeah.
the importance of the cyber breach.
Not only close, they have to fine. They will be fined with a severe, heavier
Yeah,
penalty as well.
yes,
So,
and
so
that's
that
completely the news. So you can check in this SJD accountancy breach.
yeah. So moving on to the next slide, as we have come across that why the data security is important, why it matters, but we also should know that what are the threat vectors, how these data is being breached even after implementing so much severe and stringent security controls. It's not like that any organization is not concerned about security. At some level of security is being implemented, or the any something like that, any third party, if we are using Windows operating system, if we are using any FTP, those third parties are definitely implementing certain level of, or maybe I can say that the best level of security according to their knowledge they are implementing. Again, the breach happens. So what is the reason and what are the threat vectors? Threat vectors are the channels through which any attacker can come into and get the data. Here are two things we try to highlight. One is the threat vectors and the percentage of those threat vectors was used to compromise or steal the data. So at the right side, you can see that the 19% of the breach happens due to the compromised credentials. Compromised credentials is not, if somebody will ask me that what is your password or your organization's login credential and password, I will not say. But the researcher, but the hackers or the malicious users are so intelligent, they trick users to reveal those informations, and it is being, people are hiring other people. Hackers are hiring other people, giving some kind of scripts, giving some kind of, the software script, giving some kind of written scripts that whenever you call somebody to steal his information, you can ask these certain questions, and according to your response, I will able to understand that what could be his password, or what could be the potential password he is using for certain application and all. And the another one, which is the bigger part, playing a very big part, big role in such kind of exploit is cloud misconfiguration. We have seen that many customers whose information is on cloud, and they are thinking that after switching over to the cloud, every responsibility is lying onto that cloud vendor, cloud provider, and we are just responsible for doing our work or generating the business. But whenever we sign any contract with any cloud provider, we should know that what is the roles and responsibility, till what the ownership lies in terms of developing the system, in terms of, running the business, in terms of security, in terms of backup and everything. So cloud misconfiguration is one another attack vector through which hackers are able to, exploit n number of data from various organizations. And the another one also plays a very big part is the third party software. Like I'm giving you an example that Apache version is there, or you may have heard about many zero-day vulnerability which is coming. And one of the biggest nightmare of 2021 was end of that year. Log4j vulnerability came, and it kept every security professional, or I will say that each and every person of any organization who is dealing with any data or any application was impacted with due to this log4j vulnerability, that third party logging applications which was related to Java, and they all have to work on it. Luckily, the exploit was not very big due to log4j because it was very quickly patched, or the likelihood of exploit was very less. So, but these things keep happening. So, third-party softwares are not being updated on regular basis. Even if the patching is being provided by the third-party organization, is not able to implement those patches due to certain regions, maybe due to the dependency of operating system, due to the dependency of other applications, or maybe the lack of awareness. They don't bother to patch the latest security patches over there. Another one is the phishing attack, and you might have heard about it. Plays a very big role uh, in data exploit, and this phishing happens mostly related to and it can happen to anybody, but this happens through the phone calls, so it happens through the emails, and this phishing attack is materialized mostly via the email attachment. So whenever you receive any attachment, or may spread awareness, or you are getting responsibility to, spread awareness among your organization, among your team, you tell them that don't open any attachment which you received from any unknown sender, because those attachment can contain any kind of malicious script. Lots of malicious software can be attached into the email. So basically, these are the top threats which looming large to every organization. As a security professional, if you come across with any of these, you should be, very much aware about it, and at least inform the owner of the data and the people who are dealing with, and with whom you are coordinating, that guys, these are the most important thing when you are creating your user ID and password, or you are creating a system where that will allow anybody to create user ID and password. That should be strong enough so nobody can guess it, nobody can break it, and nobody can make a very easy to break password kind of thing. Similarly, if somebody some applications are going on cloud, they should know that what kind of cloud services they are getting: SaaS, PaaS, software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and according to different category, the ownership keeps changing. So that is one of the most important thing you should definitely ask to the people who are going over the cloud, that what is the ownership defined by you. And next is
So
how to
I think
develop.
that
Yeah.
in respect of others' time, we should conclude now. It's more than an
Yeah.
hour almost. Yes. So
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
last slide. It
okay.
is
Yeah.
one of the. This is a very practical thing which I come across on day-to-day basis, where uh, every team, every organization has their security team, but they don't know what to test. It is a very separate topic. One day I will definitely take a separate session on that, how to develop your security team, and what all things should be added into that security team, who can deliver the best outcomes and best security things, support the organization. I think that's it from my side, guys. And these are the basic tools I had covered in my previous session also. So these are the most common tools, publicly available things through which any malicious user, or maybe uh, very less technical person, can fetch many information about any person, any organization. So these are the common tools which is being used by both ethical penetration tester or the hacker as well. So that's it from my side, guys. Anything, any question do you have?
Not from my end. Thanks.
Okay.
So I have a question. Like,
Yeah.
so do we in this data privacy, do we have an option like retention period is mentioned by the owner of the data, or the consumer is maintaining some data retention period for them, like something like retention period? Something, can we focus on that?
Good,
Can you
good
put something
question.
on that? Yeah.
So good question. So data retention is of course when you collect any data from the user. First of all, you tell him that what is the purpose of that data. Just I'm giving you one example, that if my resume is been shortlisted by, if I share my resume to an organization, that organization either selects me or he doesn't select me. In that case, once my selection is not happening, then they should delete my data. Even this is the common thing. Even I am not telling them that till how long you will have to keep my data, or till how long you should keep. It is just the compliance requirement. Whether compliance can ask that to that organization, did you ask the person who has shared you did the resume that we will retain your data for next 6 months, because maybe after 6 months you can reapply for this position. So we are not deleting. Are you okay with that? If I say yes, I am like I make give my consent for that, yes, then that organization will keep. But if I don't give any consent for the retention of the data, that organization is not supposed legally binded to delete the data.
Okay, so everything, the retention, everything is dependent, and all the questions are asked by the authorities, like auditing point auditors, maybe that is what.
Now, every organization has the data processing DPA, data processing authority, right?
Okay.
So they develop a program. There, these questions are there, that why you are collecting any information. If you are collecting any information, are you informing the user that you will be keeping that data for a certain period of time, or what is the purpose of that data? Or maybe by default, if you are selected or if you are not selected, your data will be deleted after 6 months, 3 months, or whatever. Maybe after, whether you are selected, not selected, just after our interview, we will delete this data. So these kind of information is all automatically, implemented into the whole process. It is it is and of course the privacy GDPR is very vast thing. So as you are asking that how somebody can give the consent. So whenever you are clicking onto the cookie, right? If you are going on to any new website, it will be asking for the consent, right? That are you
Correct.
giving the consent that your cookies will be stored. So at that point of time, if you don't read it, so of course we collect it. But if you read those information, you can somewhere find that all the information will be stored, your login, your session, your data, we are storing it. Only you are accepting it, then you click on the accepted. Otherwise, you are your choice, you reject it. So those kind of consent somehow you are already giving to them.
Thank you.